You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet. Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
All right, Miami! Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. Hey, when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. 'Cause we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins.
Good evening, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you tonight? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Friday evening, April the 26th, day 2 of the NFL draft. The Miami Dolphins made a pick at pick 55. We're down to what, Tom? The last 4 or 5 picks, 6 picks here in round 3. They're not going to trade back in. So we're deciding just to go live now and talk about what the Miami Dolphins did in round 2, pick 55. Patrick Paul, offensive tackle from Houston. We'll give you our thoughts, our reactions. Tom, how's your Friday been?
It's been okay. It's just your typical workday Friday, and just go out to dinner with my daughter, have a nice evening out, and come home. And Dolphins are on the clock, and looking at all the players available, I'm like, oh, there's some good prospects sitting here at 55, and Patrick Paul, that's the guy.
Yeah, and there's opinions. Before we jump in, folks, there's opinions all over the map on this game. You can it's really split down the middle, and not just fans. Because here's the thing: fans don't, fans aren't breaking down film on this guy. They don't know about hand placement and stuff like that. I'm talking about the people who know this stuff. There's levels to this stuff. The people who are a step or two above, the people who do this year round, the people who do breakdown tape, the people who know how to watch in all 22 and actually break this stuff down. They're all over the map. Half of them think this kid, could have gone late round 1 or where he went first part of round 2, and it's a great pick, smart pick. And then you got the other half who think this kid should not have been picked until round 3 or 4. What side's right? We don't know today. He was just drafted an hour ago. We don't know. But the big picture is, it's that you're going to see, like if they would have, just for an example, like a Roman Wilson wide receiver, he comes in year 1, is a wide receiver 3 year 1, catches 45 balls, 3 touchdowns, like 600 yards. There's a consensus there that he's that type of guy. Everyone's happy. And hey, solid pick. With this pick, everyone's going to be split. They're going to be all over the map because there's not that consensus feeling about that. And we're going to talk about that on today's show. But first, as always, a big shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, the largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, Podchaser, Audible, hit that subscribe button. If you're on YouTube watching us live right now, smash that like button on the video. If you're watching on YouTube after the fact, still smash that like button. But wherever you're listening, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We'll be back tomorrow night as well with all the picks on day 3. We'll have some more names to talk about them. So you don't want to miss an episode. And, of course, next week, all the fallout with these picks. One thing, just start off on a lighter note. How cool is it, Tom, to see Richmond Webb, a legendary offensive tackle for the Dolphins, who lives in Houston, Texas, read the name of the pick in round 2, who's an offensive tackle who's from Houston and played in Houston. How cool was that?
It's pretty cool. It was straight out of like a script written for wrestling, Houston, the player in Houston, the arguably, and to me, Hall of Fame left tackle in Richmond Webb was there to announce the pick. So it was pretty cool, and hopefully, Richmond can have a nice conversation with that young man over the summer. I'm sure Richmond will be there at some point during training camp, and just talk some shop with him. Obviously, Richmond Webb is one of the greats for the Miami Dolphins. And, Patrick Paul, we'll get into the draft profile and the analysis on the pick. But, he's a very large man, 6'7", 334, and a wingspan that's longer than LeBron James is what it said on the telecast. So he's got some length. He's got some length.
And his grandfather was the president of Nigeria, was assassinated. And after he's done playing football, he wants to be the president of Nigeria. So there's off the field, he's got a little bit of a story. On the field, the size you like. And there's a lot to dive into. I'm going to start with the big picture approach. Before we get into the nitty gritty, big picture approach. And, early March, free agency, that second week of March, Christian Wilkins gone, all the money. Robert Hunt's gone, all the money. Andrew Van Ginkel's gone shortly after, all the money. Brandon Jones signed right away. He signed for some money. All these guys left. Younger, ascending players on the rise. Then we started hearing the reports. Cameron Wolf, NFL Network, Miami Herald, Palm Beach Post. I look, not that I'm putting myself on that level. I'm not. I had someone tell me about this as well. This is a step back season. It's a pause season. They're trying to stockpile compensatory picks for next year, trying to get their salary cap in order. So moving forward, they have more cap flexibility because obviously they have to pay Tua. They would like to pay Holland. They obviously have to pay Waddle, Jaylen Phillips. They're not going to go spending like drunken sailors this offseason to sort of, either overpay for guys out there. Obviously, they lost Wilkins and Raekwon. They signed 7 guys, 1-year deals, less than $2 million, who most people never really heard about or seen play. That's the sign of a step back pause season. Now, I know there's fans who didn't like to hear that, and of course they push back. And they really push back on social media where it's a loud, toxic environment. That's not the case. You don't know what you're talking about. That's not true. Blah, blah, blah. And what we've seen in the first 2 nights here is what I love the Chop Robinson pick. I think he was the best player on the board. So I'm not really going to knock him for that. And I'm not knocking him for this pick. This is a 2025 pick, though. It's a nice pick, but it's a pick saying, I'm drafting you now in 2024. In a perfect world, I don't expect you to play this year. And we're thinking about life after Armstead in 2025. That is just another sign on top of the already other signs of losing 2 safeties in their 20s, young ascending, signing a 33-year-old Jordan Poyer on a 1-year deal, of losing Andrew Van Ginkel really over $2 million. He got $8 million guaranteed. We're going to give Shaq Barrett 6 because we're really crunching pennies here. And we're going to draft a guy who's going to be 32 in this season. And instead of an Andrew Van Ginkel with a $2 million difference and stuff like that, they went with older 1-year players instead of younger players because this is a pause season. It's a step back season. And Patrick Paul's that pick. And that's okay. That doesn't make it a bad pick. If your expectations were in rounds 1 and 2, we need guys who can come in and start right away and help us win a Super Bowl this year. I get it. That's what being a fan is about. But that was never reality. And I think for some fans, the fans who are upset with this, for the fans who are happy with this pick, they kind of get it. They know the value of a franchise left tackle. They know the value of trying to replace Armstead after this year. They understand the big picture approach. For the fans who are kind of like upset in the moment, I get it too, because we just lived through Cam Smith in round 2, who didn't play last year for whatever reason. Whether it's Vic Fangio didn't want to play a rookie or he wasn't very good and he couldn't play him. I don't know. None of us know. But we saw a pick in round 2 not play for a year. And now we're going to see another pick in round 2, most likely not play this year. Because he's not a left tackle who can slide over to guard like Larry Tunsil. Well, Larry Tunsil did. Some tackles can do. Guys who were picked in round 1 can do that. But this kid can't. He's not built to do that. And if with Armstead and Lamb, is he truly going to get on the field this year? I don't know. Maybe. I guess it all depends how he plays in practice and in training camp and stuff like that. But there's a very good chance this guy's not going to see the field much, if at all, this year. And I think it harkens back to what we heard in March. And the proof was there if you wanted to see. I always say when people get, in the back and forth on social media and get so angry, it's like, well, the facts are there. You can choose to believe it or not. And this is a pick that sort of, puts out the red sirens. This is a step back season. this is a pause season. Post June 1st, we're going to sign more veterans, 1-year guys, probably over the age of 30, to help us get through 2024. But we're thinking of a longer game of having Austin Jackson and having Patrick Paul as our left and right tackle of the future, just like we're thinking of a longer game of Chop Robinson and Jaylen Phillips, your edge rushers of the future. That's what they're doing this weekend. They could have took Graham Barton in round 1. He could have started a right guard for 10 years. They didn't do that. They're thinking big picture approach, and that's what this season's going to be. And some fans get it, some don't, but I think this pick screams that, Tom.
Yeah, I see the reasoning behind the pick. I just felt there were better tackle prospects that they could have taken at 55 if that with the direction that they went. It's hard to fathom after all these moves and everything they've done that they're gonna take like a quote pause year. I still believe that you're gonna see Chop Robinson probably play at least 30 to 40% of the snaps with.
Well, he has to because they got nobody else.
He has to. He's going to be playing. But with Patrick Paul, you're basically, you got to hand Butch Berry this kid and just say, fix him, make him, mold him into Teron Armstead, mold him into that minus the injuries, mold him into that type of left tackle. And Armstead, obviously, he worked with Austin Jackson last year. Austin Jackson went to Armstead's coach, I think Duke. I can't Duke Merriweather or whatever his name is.
I can't remember.
But he coached Austin Jackson last year. Austin Jackson had a massive leap in play last season. Armstead has been an elite left tackle when he's on the field. That's not up for debate. It's just he's not out there enough. They need to mold him and have him ready to go because, like you said, this is a 2025 pick. This is life after Teron Armstead. And if Patrick Paul can refine his skills and become better with his mechanics at left tackle, he could be a slam dunk pick. But again, you got to wait, right? We waited 4 years for Austin Jackson to become the guy that he was. He was a developmental guy at 18 back in 2020. They took him because he was athletic as hell. Patrick Paul, for his size, 6'7", 334, he's athletic as hell. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, the athletic score is out. You could see that the guy's strong. He did 30 reps on the bench. He's got long arms, and if you can get those long arms extended and get a hold, not literally hold, but get a hold of the pass rusher, that guy's not getting by him. He's a big man.
There's a lot to like. You have to keep your expectations in check.
Physical profile of Patrick Paul is what you want for a left tackle. The mechanics and refinement of being a left tackle is what needs to be worked on. And in Butch Berry, we trust. I think that is the motto that we're going to have to keep. The motto that we have to keep saying is in Butch Berry, we trust. He took, he had chicken soup at the beginning of the year. Then it turned into chicken shit. Pardon my language, and then he molded it into a form of a soup where they were okay enough to get by for the rest of the season. And they had the second worst percentage of snaps from the potential starting 5 last year. The Jets were worse. So the Dolphins need health on the offensive line. They need depth on the offensive line. Patrick Paul will provide that depth. If he needs to play this year, hopefully throughout spring and summer, he is refined. He's going to probably play a lot in the preseason. He's going to get reps.
He should play every snap. Snap he should play.
I 100%
Here's
agree
why.
He should be playing every snap.
Real quick.
He's not going to play any snaps in the season.
Real quick, here's why. If he looks amazing in training camp and he has a good – say he looks good in OTAs, which OTAs are tough. There's no pads on. But come August when they put on pads, and if they do joint practices within our team. And he looks good in those, and he looks good going up against Shaq Barrett, and he looks good going up against Chop Robinson, and he looks good in our practices. But really, if they do joint practices where you got a team with some good edge rusher, there's no reason to hold on to Kendall Lamb at that point. And I know that sounds almost sacrilegious, but if he looks good enough in August in the preseason, where you're like, if Armstead misses 4 games, this guy's he ain't gonna kill us, then why are we holding on to Kendall Lamb? Because Kendall Lamb was talking about retirement too. So that's I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying, look, there's only so many roster spots, folks. And this kid was a 2nd-round pick, 55. He's your future. So if he's that good, and I don't know if he will be, he might stink. I have no idea. But if he looks good, then Kendall Lamb's time here might be over. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's really going to depend on how things kind of play out in the off season. He performs in practices. Can he hold up in those? Like you said, the joint practices are really where it's at to get a real idea. The preseason games, of course, you're going to get an idea because he's going to be playing against guys that are fighting for jobs. And he's also going to be fighting for work too. He's a 2nd-round draft pick, and he was taken in the rounds you expected him to be taken, right? The Dolphins' problem, and for me, this is a problem. I've preached trade back. And I think they didn't last night because my belief is the Philadelphia Eagles would have pounced on Chop Robinson if the Dolphins passed on him or traded back. So that's why I believe in my thought that is the reason they took Chop Robinson. Not a bad pick.
No.
But I think they could have traded back and possibly still got him. But the way Philadelphia drafts, they would have ran to the podium to take Chop Robinson. With Patrick Paul, on the other hand, I think they could have moved back. If there was a willing participant to move up, they should have maybe, if that was the case, if someone called them, say, hey, we want to move up 5 spots, the Dolphins could have moved back, picked up that 4th-round pick, maybe a 6th-round pick, and still get Patrick Paul at that position. I just think with the lack of draft capital in this year's draft, it was very difficult for the Dolphins to move up because all they're really offering is something for next year where teams are looking for still something this year. But I don't know. Time will tell, right? We can throw as much analysis at this as we want to. We can throw grades and whatever else. All that matters is how is he going to perform on the field? Is he going to get coached up by Butch Berry? And will he be ready? Because the way that the offensive line was last year and the year before that, I mean, I could keep going on how brutal the offensive line has been when it comes to injuries. He needs to be ready to play. So it starts as soon as he gets into Miami Gardens, he needs to be at work and he needs to refine those skills because at some point he is going to play. Let's be realistic.
They can't unfortunately, fair or not, after living through Austin Jackson and everything that was that, which, he was great last year. So great. We're all happy and they paid him. And actually, since we lived through Liam Eichenberg, who was actually drafted to be a right tackle, and all the challenges we've seen there, they don't have. They're telling Butch Berry, here's your assignment. 365 days from today, he needs to be our starting left tackle. Okay, you have a year, 12 months, figure it out. So he knows the assignment. Butch Berry knows it, and we'll see. Butch can only coach up so much. Any assistant coach, you can only coach up so much. It really comes down to the player. And
if he works hard, hard,
it sounds like he's a nice kid. It sounds like he's a hard worker. He doesn't sound like he's got any off the field drama. He seems, he wants to be a president of Nigeria. It's like that type of guy. You can tell. I don't need to know him. I don't need to have talked to him. He's got some smarts to him, and he's looking for bigger things in life. So clearly, that's a positive, I would say.
I agree. You can't hate the person. I think what he's bringing to the table, again, if his work ethic is there and he picks the brain of, again, Armstead has been doing this for a long time and he's been arguably top 5 every single year he's been on the football field when it comes to being a left tackle. Pick that guy's brain. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to play the position. They need to put him in the locker room right next to Ron Armstead right there.
Yeah.
And though he needs to be attached to his hip and hope that he is 85% of what Teron Armstead is. Because if you're going to get that type of player, the Dolphins will be set at left tackle for at least 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and here's one more thing before we actually dive into some like numbers and metrics and some stuff. One more thing. This is how, it's draft night. He was just picked, like I said, like an hour or two ago. We don't know. Nobody knows. Everyone has a visceral opinion, of course, but we don't truly know. But here's the deal. 55, Patrick Paul. 59, Blake Fisher to Houston. 62, Roger Rosengarten to the Ravens. And 63, Kingsley Samatua, however you say his last name, to Kansas City. 4 offensive tackles taken in an 8-pick span. In 2 to 3 years, we'll find out if Miami made the right pick, if he's the best of the bunch, or even if he's second best of the bunch, that's fine. Or if one of those 3 guys, or if a couple of those 3 guys, or if all 3 of those other guys are better than him, then, that's a check on Chris Grier's report card. That's a negative. We don't know that today. None of us know, but there's 4 offensive tackles from 55 to 63 in an 8-pick span taken. We started the run, and we'll see if we pick the right guy or not, but you're not going to know that today. And here's the deal. All 4 of those guys, none of them are probably I don't know the offensive line situations for each of those teams, but none of them probably starting this year. So that's what it is. Now, Tom, let's go through some of the numbers here. Again, as I said at the top, there were some mocks from some draft analysts who saw some things on tape they liked, had him late round 1, mid round 2, where Miami got him. Other analysts, very smart people, respected people who know their craft, had him round 3 or 4. It is what it is. Once with the draft, I think as fans, sometimes you get lost in the process. Once you get past like the top, they often say people in like some teams, they only mark like 18, 19, 20, 21 first round grades on players. Not 32 because there's 32 picks. You only mark off however many that you think in that year. And after that, the opinions on players, vary drastically. This guy wasn't a top, 19, 20, 21, 22 pick in this draft. So opinions on him, just like all these guys, pick late round 1 yesterday and pick today. The opinions are going to be very much varied on him. He, as I said, he's not a Larry Tunsil type who's going to slide over and play guard. Is it possible? I guess it's just very unlikely. Why? To play guard, you got to be a very good run blocker. His run blocking grade per PFF and other analytic people, it's not just PFF, varies, is average to below average. He's when it comes to run blocking, that's his weakness. Pass blocking, he excels, and that's where he gets a very high grade. As a senior, Patrick Paul allowed 1 sack in 565 pass blocking situations. He had the highest pass blocking grade among all tackles nationally at 91.5%, according to PFF. Again, there's context. I'm not a big PFF guy. I throw out the numbers because I know a lot of people are, and it's not just about me. But there's also context behind that into, the type of down. What was the formation they were playing? Was it a blitz he was trying? So, but that's the thing. You have 1 sack, okay, in 565 pass block situations, 91.5 pass blocking grade PFF, highest pass block grade among all the tackles. He allowed just 2 sacks in 1,053 pass blocking situations during his junior and senior seasons. 6'7", 334, like we said, played all of his college snaps at left tackle. He's not a guy who you're going to really move around too much. And if you do, it just means it's going to take longer to get him on the field. We know why we drafted him. Left tackle of the future. Do not try to teach him right tackle to be a swing tackle off the bench. Keon Smith's your backup right tackle, or Jack Driscoll. Don't monkey around this kid. You put him at left tackle, and that's all he's got to learn. He made 42 starts in college, which is a double-edged sword, Tom. You go, oh, great, he's got a ton of experience. Yes, but why some people graded him in round 3 or round 4 is you have, from all those people who think he's really got to be, he's got the size, he's got the arm length, he's got the speed, he's got the athleticism, he's got poor fundamentals. Well, after 42 college starts, if he hasn't learned fundamentals yet, now a team's got to invest a year or more into teaching him fundamentals. So having 42 starts is like, is he ever going to pick it up? That's the fear. But 42 starts, he does have experience. So again, glass half empty, glass half full. I'll let you decide. We all have our own opinions. The good thing here with Miami, Tua, we know gets the ball out quick, and he don't hold the ball long for obvious reasons. One, that's his game now, and two, he got to avoid taking hits for obvious reasons there. And this guy is so stinking big. If an edge rusher is going to get around him before Tua gets it out quick, he's going to have to call an Uber. This guy is huge. His arms are longer than Mims, who everyone said Mims was a freak. This guy's arms are longer than him. It's just the fundamentals aren't there. If you're building a left tackle in the lab, you're building Patrick Paul. Athletic, long arms, it's just that's the left tackle you want. It's just you're not going to see it in 2024 probably. Needs to improve as a run blocker, needs to improve with stuff like hand placement. And again, let him play every snap in the preseason. You got 4 preseason games. Let him play them all. Get as much work as possible. Let's get the ball rolling here and see what he's got. That's what those games are for, especially for a guy which we know in 20 Armstead, unless Armstead blows out his knee the first week of training camp, we're not going to need this guy. But Frank Smith is an offensive line coach. Butch Barry is an offensive line coach for us now. Frank Smith in his past has been one. He's got 2 smart people who are hopefully going to coach this kid up. But the metrics of just size, speed, analytics, you love him. It's just he needs more work, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. And you bring up his athletic score. It was 9.67 according to the relative athletic score. His measurables are ridiculous. The man weighs 331 pounds and ran a 5.13 40-yard dash. For a guy that
there's a lot to like. It's just the stuff.
There is, but again, you call back to the tape, right? There's some potential. You see some good reps as a pass blocker. You see some reps where he gets beat. If he can't get his hands extended and punch properly, he's going to get beat. But his run blocking, if that can improve, and obviously that's what the team is going to be gearing for. I mean, based on his just a pure athleticism, that's like Trent Williams type guy going down the line in a zone block. That's going to throw a linebacker into the stands. I mean, that's the type of guy that you want, but you got to develop him long term. And when you talk about some of the experts and things like that, I like looking at like Lance Zierlein from NFL.
Very good man. Yeah,
he does a very great job going through all these players. He had him projected between rounds 2 and 3. So it's fair that the Dolphins took him there. Again, lack of draft capital leads to potentially reaching for players before they technically should be drafted, right? The NFL comparison is Nicholas Petit-Frere. Strengths, long arms, ability to land first strike when his hands are right, slides quickly in the B gap when the edge rusher's back out or twist, squares and mirrors initial rush moves, which tends to dent their momentum, has agility and footwork for recoveries at the top of the rush. He slides his hip into place post contact to help seal off the kickout blocks and swings quickly from one block to the next on climb up blocks. The weaknesses: his pass set can turn into a mini gallop. So think of like a little horse running. Needs to keep his weight back and his chin tucked in pass protection. Diminishes his length with a lack of consistent track on the inside punch. High cut with legs that lead to consistently tall pad level. Allows backside opponents to fight through his cutoff attempts. And doesn't play with enough core strength or grit to be thought of as a block finisher. So again, you talk to Teron Armstead. You work with Teron Armstead. Butch Barry's going to get his hands on this guy. He's already seeking outside coaching during the offseason to help with his hand placements, with his punches. He knows the areas he has to improve. He said that on the conference call with the media in South Florida. He knows what he has to improve on. The team is prepared for him to work on that. And then once they get him into camp, let's see if he's improved. And if he comes out there and he's night and day in his abilities or his inabilities that he had in college now turn into abilities at the NFL level, he's ready to go. But again, expect him to play this year. At least a few games
this year.
We don't want to see him. Listen, if Patrick Paul is on the football field,
Something went terribly wrong.
Something went terribly wrong. We don't want to see him unless he is playing when the team is up 40-0. When
Or
they're
down
playing
40
the Jets,
Yeah.
40-0, and he's in the game for Armstead. That's fine. That's great. I don't want to see him in a game prior to next year. If you see him, there's something that potentially catastrophically happens.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's like expectation level. And I know, trust me, like nobody's a more frustrated Dolphins fan than me. Really. It's like, I get called, hater or negative just when I point out criticism that's even fair. And I get pointed out stuff. And I'm okay with this pick because, again, the writing's on the wall. And, some fans choose to believe it and some don't. And that's okay. I'm not telling anyone how to be a fan. But this was going to be a step back pause season just by the moves they made in March. And I know some fans don't want to believe it, or they don't think, they got a little spoiled. We made the playoffs 2 years in a row. When's the last time that's ever happened? Even though we lost, we made the playoffs. And, we've been more fun to watch, more exciting to watch. And they don't want that train to stop. But this train might have to stop for a year. Pause for some more fuel. Some other teams might have more fun in January than us this year, unfortunately. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm saying it could happen. But next year, we're going to be ready to go again and sort of scoot ahead and hopefully be in a better position, both financially, draft pick wise, and stuff like that to really make a good run. If we're going to have a lot of money under the cap next year, granted, a lot of it has to go to players we have to resign. But we're also going to have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. This year, we had a pick 21-55, kind of boring. Let's be honest. We had one pick. Then and then tomorrow, exactly. Then tomorrow we have nothing in round 4. And really, they have nothing to trade to get into round 4, nor would they part with a future pick. It makes no sense. So, the middle of round 5 is their next pick. And when we get to 5, 6, 7, which we'll talk about here shortly, you're taking guys who can hopefully either play special teams or be on your practice squad for the future. This team, as we know it, is 90% there. Post June 1st, I think they'll sign a safety. They'll sign a wide receiver. And I think they're still going to sign a veteran guard because Patrick Paul can't play guard. And that's your 2024 Dolphins, folks. Now, I don't know if it's going to be Odell and Risner and whoever they sign at safety. Perfect world. Those are probably the best names out there. Odell, Risner, and a safety. And they might have to sign some more edge rushers. Again, it's not going to be anybody any good. It's probably going to be guys on the wrong side of 30 whose best days were 7 years ago. But that's your team. And there's no needle-moving moves here. And there wasn't going to be in this draft. Now, if someone fell last night in round 1, which we thought for a while someone would, who would be more of a polished product, said it right tonight, than, Chop Robinson, great. But, and we have a question here in our live chat. Would you just sit tight with the picks you have left regardless? No, I'd sit tight. I mean, Our next pick's in round 5. We're not getting into round 4. And just sit tight. I'm not trading a future third now. Let's be the kings of the castle next year in the draft with 5 picks the first 3 or the first 3 rounds, and let's go strong then and have the ability to move around the draft. Well, kind of like what the Vikings did, what Washington did yesterday and tonight. Let's be that next year. But let's have a roster that's actually good, where we don't need volume of players. We're looking for 1 or 2 key pieces so we can give up and we could trade our second and a third to maybe move up 8 spots to get a really good player at the top of round 2. Or we could trade our first and second to move up to the top of round 1 or the middle of round 1 to get a really good player because we still got extra picks around 3. Let's plan for that next year and understand. I know some fans don't want to hear this, but it's true. This year's going to be. Let's hope Cam Smith is good. Let's hope I don't want to hope Patrick Paul plays, but if he does, let's hope he's good if he has to play. Let's see Achane take another step this year to being a full-time number 1 running back. Let's see Waddle continue to excel. Granted, it will cost us more money, but let's see him continue to grow to where we have to pay him no matter what and force Chris Grier's hands to pay him. Let's hope that we see Jaylen come back on the field this year and play. Let's hope we see Chop Robinson play outstanding this year. We're like, whoa, we got this guy with Chubb coming back. It's more about let's see what we have in house. Let's hope Austin Jackson continues to play well, builds off of last year. Aaron Brewer, let's hope he excels at center. Jonnu Smith, there's things to look for, and I don't think we're going to be bad. I think we'll win, honest, no BS right now for me on April 26th. I think we'll win between 8 and 11 games. And it could be as much as 10 or 11, and we'll maybe sneak in the playoffs, but it could also be as low as 8. I think that's a realistic range. Let's see what they do post June 1st and stuff like that. But I don't think we're going to build off of last year. I don't think we're going to win the East. I don't think we're going to, win playoff games, but I think we're going to be a good season. But it's kind of a pause season, and that's what this pick sort of encapsulates tonight. And I know some fans don't like to hear it, and I'm sorry, but it's just reality at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm not one to put any win totals out right now. I've kind of.
Let's see what they do June 1st. That's going to be big.
June 1st. June 1st, the Dolphins get to go to the bank and cash an $18.5 million check, which is it's going to be useful, right? You're going to be signing your draft picks for this year. You're going to be which is not going to cost them a lot.
There's not many picks.
Not many picks, and a bulk of your picks are in the later rounds. So you're not going to break the bank on your draft picks. You're going to sign some vets. You're going to have those deals structured where there's going to be incentive laden contracts. So, small base salaries that could go up to X amount of dollars. Think of the Shaq Barrett contract. And they're going to carry some money over into next year. I firmly believe that's going to be the case because they want the additional space.
Flexibility.
If there's an extra $10 to $20 million in cap space that gets added next year on top of what they already have available, plus the carryover, you're talking $80+ million, and you structure these new contracts properly. You're going to stagger the contracts, right? So, and I think Brandon Shore does a tremendous job with the contract stuff. So I'm not too concerned about the cap space. I'm not too concerned about how they're going to get these guys under contract. They want the core four there, right? The core four: Waddle, Phillips, Holland, and of course the quarterback. So I think everything's going to work itself out. I would assume that we're going to probably get news over probably starting beginning of May all the way to June 2nd. I think we're going to start seeing some news trickle in regarding some contract extensions for the team. And potential add-ons to the team as well. Just because, they're going to sign this guy, that doesn't mean the contract's processed until June 2nd, right? They don't want to just get into...
Yeah, plus, here's something else too. Any free agent, not guys who were cut, free agent, that they sign next week after May 2nd, I think is the date, doesn't count against the compensatory pick. Now, they don't have a lot of money to use, obviously, but we know they've been signing guys who've been cut by other teams. They're free agents, but they were cut because that doesn't count against the compensatory formula. I think it's May 1st or 2nd. I don't remember the exact date. If they wanted to sign someone who's a true free agent in every sense of the word, contract expired, has yet to sign with the team, it won't count against the compensatory pick formula. The issue is they don't have a ton of money for that, but they could if they wanted. And they could always do something like restructure Tyreek, which I don't think is going to happen after the news this week. But they could. And if they do that, then they could have money. Like if they went out there in the next couple of weeks and signed either Tyler Boyd or Odell Beckham, oh my God, that's a huge move. And I know people don't like Odell, whatever. I don't want to argue that tonight. But if they get someone of that caliber as a third wide receiver, paying them as a third wide receiver with expectations they're a third wide receiver, again, expectations is context here. That changes this offense drastically when you have Hill, Waddle, say Tyler Boyd, Jonnu Smith, Achane Mostert. Let's go. And then if you go out there and sign a Risner, this offense is going to be ready to fly in 2024. But again, there's a big picture play here with Patrick Paul, round 2, kind of like with Cam Smith last year, round 2. Yep. Guys, you're going to see other teams taking guys in round 2 are going to start. We're taking guys who we're talking about 2025. There's a different mindset, and I know some fans don't like to hear that and can't understand that. But again, that's reality. That's the world we're living in.
Yeah, that's why, you bring up the Cam Smith's name again. I'm excited to see what it's going to look like.
It's like a bonus pick this year for us.
Yeah, it technically is because he was redshirted last year. He barely played any snaps defensively. He played mostly on special teams when he was dressed. So this is definitely a guy that needs to step up in 2024. And like you said, Mike, I think from an offensive perspective, I would expect that the offense is going to be as good as they were last year. It's the defense, right? So if the team averaged 30 points a game last year, and if they can bring that again for this season, that's fantastic. But can the defense hold opposing teams under 30? That's going to be the question. And that's the job of Anthony Weaver. That's what he's going to have to sort out. I think there's There's good talent on defense. I think the secondary is in phenomenal position.
The front seven is just a mess.
The front seven needs to get sorted out, and I think there's still a lot of time to get that sorted through. I think there's good pieces there. I like David Long Jr. I think Jordan Brooks is an upgrade over Jerome Baker in terms of what he brings. Zach Sealer was a stud last year, but he's going to garner all the attention that Christian Wilkins had last year. So guys have to step up, especially while Phillips and Chubb are out. I think once you get those guys back, I think you have a very good pass rush room. It's the interior of the defensive line that's, for me, is the biggest question mark going into next year.
Yeah, and here's one more thing I want to point out there. It's a dirty little secret that a lot of Dolphins fans don't want to hear, maybe. If they don't add another player on offense, if they don't sign someone post June 1st on offense, they just go with this group, a lot of the problems on offense can be fixed with Mike McDaniel. Stick with the running game. Don't get crazy by going for it on crazy fourth downs. On 3rd and 1, after you're running the ball 7 yards a clip, don't throw a sideways pass where a guy gets tackled in the backfield. If Mike McDaniel just calls a smarter game, takes less risk, sticks with the running game, a lot of the problems on offense will be solved. Because we're bringing back most of the band from last year. And with all those injuries on the offensive line, that band was still the number one offense in the NFL. I know they struggled versus the Ravens. I know they struggled versus the Chiefs not once but twice. I know they struggled versus the Bills. But in a lot of those games, Mike McDaniel did goofy, wacky things. If he just cuts that out, this offense will be better without adding another player from today on April 26th on. That's the truth. It's a hard truth. Yep. It really is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Mike McDaniel's really he's the one who needs to do the bigger step. That's offense, but on defense again. And let's just talk about tomorrow, day 3 again. It's really best player available when you're in rounds 5, 6, and 7. It's really guys with traits. I would expect they got 1 pick in round 5, 2 in round 6, 1 in round 7. You will see at least 1, maybe 2 edge rushers there, or you'll see an edge rusher and a defensive tackle. I bet my life on it because those guys have the best chance to come in and actually make the team right away. So that's number one. And I think at some point they'll take a wide receiver. I don't know if it makes much sense. I with Eric Uzakama hopefully coming back, Braxton Berrios, River Craycraft, I think the third wide receiver they need really in free agency. So if they didn't take one at this point in one of those late rounds, I'm A-okay with it because we need a veteran wide receiver. We don't need another young guy who's going to be, that's what we need. Noel, the Iowa punter. Yeah, but they just paid Jake Bailey. I'm with you though. No, you shouldn't be kind of serious. You should be serious. A round 6 or 7 pick on a punter is someone who would make this team and probably improve this team. We're just not going to do it, unfortunately.
There is no greater punter in college football than the guy that punts for Iowa, because that guy gets a lot of work in. He is the Thomas Morstead of college football with the amount of times that guy punted. So
I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be shocked if he goes to round 4 tomorrow. Early round 4, because there's some teams we've seen in recent years have taken kickers and punters higher than normal. Like we're getting around 4, they start taking kickers and punters. I know San Francisco a few years ago took a place kicker in round 3. Bill Belichick, the one year took like a kicker in round 3 and a punter in round 4, or maybe it was round 4 and 5. I can't remember.
His dog made those picks, Mike. It was the dog.
Exactly. But the point is, some teams value that stuff. Unfortunately, we don't. That's what is. Okay. Last thing here to wrap up. We've gone through the first 3 rounds. To me, that's the draft. Everything happening Saturday is more practice squad stuff, and you hope to get a lottery ticket like a Zach Thomas. You hope to get a lottery ticket like a Tom Brady. You can't. Nobody's drafting for that. You're just hoping you scratch off a lottery ticket and you get a Hall of Famer. But you can't really plan for that. Through 3 rounds, what team, in your opinion, had the best draft? If you need a minute, I can go first, because to me, it's not even close. There's a team that's absolutely killed this draft and done it, and by killed, I mean in a good way. They've been awesome. I've loved what they've done, and it makes sense what they've done, and a team I'm really high on. So I'll go first if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. To me, and let me get the info up because my head's kind of spinning here from all these names. I want to make sure I get every one of them right. To me, the Pittsburgh Steelers have had a home run of a first 2 days. Round 1, Troy Fontenot, stud offensive lineman. You got Broderick Thomas last year, 1 tackle. This guy's probably going to go to the other tackle. bookend tackles round 1. You have them under control. One for 4 more years. This one for 5 years, 5th-year options. Then they go Zach Frazier, interior of the offensive line. Get a center. Put next to your 2 bookend tackles. Then they get Roman Wilson, a 4.39 guy who ran a 4.39 wide receiver. And then with their next pick in round 3, Peyton Wilson, like the number 1 by most people, not everybody, the number 1 quote unquote linebacker in a weak linebacker group. I admit those 4 picks by Pittsburgh in a brutal AFC North, where you got the Browns are really, really good talent wise. The Ravens, we all know, is really, really good. And if Cincinnati can stay healthy, they're really, really good with the best quarterback of the bunch, arguably. Pittsburgh, now I don't know what they have a quarterback. They're going to have to work through that. But their approach is kind of smart. We're going to build up the rest of this roster, so it's amazing. We took a running back in round 1 a few years ago. We're going to put a wall in front of him, and we're going to run into the ground in the cold, snowy, late in the year big games against the Ravens, against the Browns, against the Bengals, and they are going to build an identity of tough, talented football. They get an A+. I don't care what they do on Saturday. That is an A+ draft in every sense of the word.
I'll agree with that. I hate them.
I hate them too, but you got to give the devil their due sometime, and that's a good. That's great.
Yeah. I guess the one team that I'm fairly high on is I would say Minnesota. I think they were patient in round 1. They moved up 1 spot to secure JJ McCarthy, who they love. I mean, again, that, your opinion on the quarterback is what it is. They needed a quarterback. McCarthy checks a lot of boxes. Is he going to be a stud NFL quarterback? Time will tell. But what, in my thought, was huge was obviously prior to the draft, they traded with Houston. Houston got out of round 1. They picked up pick 23. They packaged 23 to move up to 17 to Jacksonville's pick. And then they took Dallas Turner.
It's 17.
At 17, Dallas Turner was there. I was thinking if Minnesota didn't trade, I didn't know if he was going to get by the 4 teams prior to the Dolphins picking. But I was starting to go, oh my God, if Dallas Turner falls in the Dolphins' lap, what a miracle. But I thought they did a great job making sure they stayed patient, waiting for the board to kind of come to them. And overall, I thought it was a good weekend for them thus far. The other team that I'm really high on right now is Arizona. I think Arizona had a hell of a first couple rounds. They grab obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 4, which I think will transcend them to a different level with Kyler Murray. They get Darius Robinson.
Good God, they got a ton of picks. They got a ton of picks.
Yeah. Darius Robinson from Missouri, the edge rusher they got with their second first-round pick. I think that was a solid play. They get Max Melton from Rutgers, a pretty good corner. Trey Benson, the running back, to pair with James Conner for 1 year. They get Tip Ryman, the tight end out of Illinois. They've had a ton of picks. This was definitely a rebuild. They had a plethora of picks in the 3rd round. They picked 2nd, 7th, 18th, and 27th in the 3rd round. So they're filling their roster out with young, cheap talent. And obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. They have a chance if Kyler Murray can come around and stay healthy. They may be something in the next year or two for sure.
Yeah, for them it comes down to quarterback. But that, once again, they showed patience. They made a big trade last year with Houston. They gave up a very good player in that trade, but what they got in return paid off, because this year, again, I know fans don't like to think about long game stuff. It's all short term. I want it now. Long game for them, it totally paid off. Now they were in a total rebuild. Miami's in a different situation than that, but you got to think about the long game at times, because that, we all want the one ultimate goal, and maybe to get there, what's the song say? one step forward, two steps back. It's like kind of like a real thing in life at times. This might be it. The other team real quick, which we spoke about heading into the draft, and it worked out for him perfectly. And I can't wait to see what the over-under is for them, is the Bears. I mean, look, they only had 3 picks, but here's the deal. The first 2 are really what you're talking about. They got the quarterback, who everyone loves. Rome Odunze fell in their lap at 9, which everyone thought would happen. It did. They pounced on it. And then around 3, they didn't have a pick around 2. They got the offensive tackle from Yale, who everyone was super, super high on. Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I watch Yale football. I don't know anything about the kid. But, again, smarter people than me, people who do this for a living, the guys on Sirius XM NFL radio who really break down players, the guys who really break down players year-round for reputable outlets, the Lance Zerlines of the world, Jeremiah's, Mel Kipers. They all like the kid from Yale. They're like, no, this kid's really good. It's Yale. So, like, the level of competition and stuff, so they got him. You get a young quarterback, what do? You give him an offensive tackle and you give him a wide receiver. You're building it the right way. They got Keenan Allen. They got a few weapons now, and they're going to help the offensive line. And, they'll probably win more games this year than last year. Then next year you start to focus on the defense. That's how you build from the ground up. It's a smart approach. They hit those 2 picks in the first round are great. And, again, if you're the Panthers, you got to be sick to your stomach. But that's life, as they say. That's life, Tom.
That's right.
All right. Thank you. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, all I was gonna say is regarding Chicago, all the moves from last year, Montez Sweat trade, the defense improving. Now they get a quarterback. They get Keenan Allen.
They were good down the stretch last year.
They were good down the stretch last year. Defensively, especially, they were really good defensively. For me, their win total right now is 8.5. I'm taking the over.
If it's 8.5 today, I'm putting money as soon as we hang up. Like, literally, I'm putting money. They're going to win 9-10 games next year. I mean, in that division, they'll win 9-10 games.
Yeah. They've got a let me think about it. They have a 4th place schedule. So
yes, now I'm curious. Let's look before we sign off. Now I'm curious. And now I am curious. Bears schedule 2024. Okay, home games. New England, that's a win. I'm going to do the Mike and the Mad Dog thing. I know it's April and it makes no sense, but guys, it's like 11:53 on a Friday night. New England at home, win. Panthers at home, win. Titans at home, win. Jacksonville at home, could be a win. Seattle at home, might be a win. Rams at home, not impossible. Rams would be a little tougher, but not impossible. And then you got your 3 teams in the North. Okay, on the road, Washington, they ain't nothing great. Indianapolis, that's a young quarterback. They're coming off an injury. Houston, San Francisco, that's a little tougher. Minnesota, okay, that's nothing. Arizona, like, they don't play a lot. They play. I'm putting money, Tom, as soon as we hang up, I'm putting, as they said on The Sopranos, a couple boxes of ziti on over 8.5 wins. That schedule is nothing daunting. Nothing. I mean, New England, Carolina, Tennessee, Jacksonville, and then Washington, Indy, Arizona. Yeah. You're at, like, if they just go like 5-2 there, I mean, you're at 8.5 by just going 500 in the NFC North. And the Vikings, Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy, they could sweep them. Split with Jordan Love. You're there.
Yep.
Oh, we're making money.
That number's gonna move. That number's gonna move once we get to the summer. So if it's sitting at 8.5 right now, you better take
put the money down now. Don't wait.
Make it 4 boxes of ZD for me, Mike.
It might be. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. And thank you for everyone who joined us Friday night on the live show on YouTube. It wasn't as long as last night because we only had 1 pick, and we kind of knew they had no more ammunition after that pick was made. We stayed on a little bit after, but thank you for everyone who joined us live for the instant real-time reaction. We had Zach Krantz join us tonight. Richmond Webb joined us from the green room at the draft. That was kind of cool before Miami picked. If you want to go back and watch it, go to our DolphinsTalk YouTube channel. Watch the live stream from Friday night. You'll see Richmond Webb in the green room, showing us the green room, talking about the food he ate in Detroit, everything in Detroit, and having fun with us. Then we had Zach Krantz from 560. What's that? No. He was nervous. He was wearing a light tan suit, so he said he ate a meal. He tried to stay clean, but people from the NFL were walking around with like Cheetos and chips, and he goes, I can't get my suit dirty. I'm about to go on TV. So he said no to all the snacks because he wanted to stay clean when he walked out on stage. So yeah, he was a lot of fun. Really nice guy. Everyone loves Richmond Webb. There's nothing not to love. Then Zach Krantz from 560 WQAM joined us, and Doug from Dudley Do Wrong. Spent the whole night on his live stream and our live stream. He multitasked 2 live streams at the same time. I've never seen anything like it. So that was a lot of fun.
He's a genius, man. He does such a good job.
So that was a lot of fun. And if you want to watch it. You have some laughs, and we had a lot of fun. And same thing for night one. Night one was wild, watching 5, 6, 7 of us in the range of emotions everyone's going throughout the night. That was kind of cool. But thank you all for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. Hit that subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button. Also hit the subscribe button. We'll be back Saturday night breaking down picks from day 3. They might not be in-depth picks or in-depth analysis, but we're going to go over the names, talk about who we signed, and also go over the list of undrafted free agents. As we should have most of the names by the time we record, so be on the lookout for that Saturday. We'll break that down and talk about everything that happened Saturday. Everyone have a great evening. We'll talk to you again after a while. And if you're out on the road this weekend, folks, don't forget, we still must put an end to highway profanity.
What's up?